Hey guys, this is the Pixel XL, and Google says it has the best smartphone camera in the world. So we decided to put it to a little studio test. We're gonna compare it to the iPhone 7 Plus, the LG V20, and the Samsung Galaxy S7 Edge. We created a little setup in our video studio. First we're gonna shoot in low light, and then we're gonna switch to basically perfect studio lighting. Now, as far as settings, every camera has been set to auto. We've also left HDR on and turned flash off. Also, for the phones with two lenses, we're only using the standard lens. After everything's done, we're gonna put all the images on a computer and go through everything to pick the best ones. Okay, we just shot a bunch of photos, and the early verdict is that the Pixel XL does better in brighter studio light, but the LG V20 might actually do better in lower dim light. So Adam, walk us through all these shots.
Yeah, for sure. So not only are we looking at the lens and the sensor, but more importantly, we're seeing how each company handles its JPEG compression. So first we're looking at the results of the low light tests, and there's three categories we're looking for: clarity, range, and color. In this low light test, we set up a mixed lighting scenario. So we have the warm colors coming in from the lamps, and then a cooler color kind of simulating some moonlight coming in off of a window. And each camera handles the color correction differently. So here in the Pixel, you can see that it's stripped almost all hints of blue out of the image and really exposed for the orange. We switch over to the iPhone 7, and we see that it brings back some of the blue and still maintains some of the orange. The GS7, I feel, handled it the best in mixing and portraying both of them, but the V20 actually took out almost all hints of orange.
What do you think is the most accurate color in dim light?
I actually feel like the GS7 Edge is probably the most accurate based off of the setup that we had, with maybe the iPhone 7 Plus close second. So each of these cameras captured images around 1/15 of a second. We had it locked off on a tripod to reduce camera shake and anything handheld that would be interjected into the image. On the Pixel, you can easily see the word Fujica here on this camera.
Yeah, it's pretty crisp.
If we switch over to the iPhone 7 Plus, we start to see, you can't really make that out.
That does not look good. There's no definition there.
Yeah, it's starting to kind of blur together. And the same goes for the GS7 Edge. When we switch over to the V20, we see everything very sharp. And when we place the V20 side by side with the Pixel, we see both are very crisp and clear in terms of the words, but if you start to see the line at the top, there's a lot more of a jagged edge on the Pixel. And I think that's because Google, in their default auto, is putting a lot of sharpening in the image.
Right.
To overcompensate maybe some of the lack of the sharpening on the lens.
Right, but just based on pixel clarity, you really can tell the V20 does a better job in low light.
Yeah.
Now we're looking at the Pixel versus iPhone 7 Plus, and yeah, you could really tell just by looking at that writing on the camera, Pixel has so much more definition.
Yeah, you can't really make it out on the iPhone, but you can see the iPhone is trying to add some sharpening in the post, but it's not doing a very good job. The GS7 Edge doesn't seem to be trying too much sharpening, and you just can't really pick out the Fujica on the front of that. So as a result, I would give the V20 the edge on this one in terms of sharpness, with the Pixel pretty close behind. It's able to kind of make some up in post, but straight out of the camera, it looks like the V20 is the best image there.
And keep in mind, this is the pre-production version of the V20, so we're getting the final review version hopefully sometime soon.
Okay, cool. So here we're going to look at the dynamic range between each of the cameras.
Okay, so will HDR have any effect on this test?
Yeah, we wanted to keep HDR on, mostly because each camera has it by default on, but also you're going to retain a lot more information by taking multiple photos and kind of mashing them together to get the most information in each still. So let's check out the histogram on this. So on histogram, the left part represents all of the dark areas of the image, where on the right represents all of the bright areas of the image. So here on the Pixel, you can see this real sharp spike all the way to the left, meaning that the blacks are getting crushed. There's very little information being retained in the dark areas of this image.
Okay.
If we switch over to the iPhone, you see that spike jump off the edge a little bit, which means there's a little bit more information in the darks. We go over to the GS7 Edge, and it starts to go back to the left a little bit, but the V20 comes off of the left edge the most out of all of them, meaning that it's able to retain more information in the dark areas of the image.
Okay, so let's jump to the full screen image and show me what this really means in terms of real world low light performance.
For sure. So if we zoom in on the Snickers bar here, we can see with both the V20 and the Pixel, you can actually read the label on the side of the bar, where with the iPhone 7 Plus and the GS7 Edge, you can't really make it out. It's a little too dark. And if we look over at the plant on the left side here, in the Pixel, the green stems are just turning into black when it goes into the pot. The iPhone 7 Plus, you can see green a little bit further. The GS7, it's starting to fade into black again, but the V20, you definitely see a lot more green before it hits the pot as opposed to the Pixel. The edge here I would still give to the V20 in terms of dynamic range.
So it seems like the big takeaway here is that the V20, which isn't even released yet, actually has superior low light performance, but the Pixel comes really close, and then the other two are falling a bit behind.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of a camera smartphone, the one I would have in my pocket in a low light scenario would be the V20. The Pixel is not bad, but the V20 I feel like excels in both dynamic range and clarity for sure.
Got it. So what about the full lighting scenario with all of our studio lights turned on?
So we're gonna go through the same categories here of color, clarity, and range. So if we start off with the Pixel here, we can tell that the colors are popping pretty well, but it's not overly saturated. If we switch over to the iPhone 7 Plus, we get a little bit more of an orangish tinge here. The GS7 Edge also has a little bit of a yellow tinge, where the V20 and the Pixel both seem to be skewing a little bit on the cooler side.
Okay, so I'm looking at Pixel versus V20, and I personally like the colors on the Pixel more. They look more vibrant and saturated. They're just a little bit more impressive.
Compared to how this actually looks in real life, I would definitely prefer the Pixel over the V20. Compared to the GS7 Edge, once again, you're starting to get into this yellow-greenish, and the iPhone 7 Plus is really washing out all the colors and desaturating the image in a way that, once again, the Pixel looks way better to me.
Yeah.
What about you?
Me too. And also, I know this is a different criteria, but I'm just seeing more definition in Pixel relative to iPhone 7 Plus and GS7 Edge.
Yeah, so that can kick us off to the next category of clarity, and if we look at the iPhone 7 Plus versus the Pixel, you can't even tell the individual strands of fuzz on our little Android guy here. The GS7 Edge, the same thing. It's almost kind of making it an abstract painting in a way that is not very pleasant. The V20 definitely brings back some of that clarity. You can kind of see the texture on the skin, but the Pixel definitely has more detail here. If we move over to the Coral, we kind of see the same results. The Pixel has a lot of clarity compared to the V20.
Yeah, it almost looks like the V20 has fewer colors to work with, like it has less color depth.
Yeah, it could, and especially compared to the GS7 Edge. Not only is the clarity taking hit, but yeah, we're not seeing a variance in the different kinds of oranges that we see in the Pixel. The iPhone 7 Plus is overexposing it a little bit, but it's still not a clear picture at all. Far and away, the Pixel is the best with full light when it comes to clarity. So moving on to the dynamic range of each image. So we saw with the Pixel, the GS7 Edge, and the V20, it tended to underexpose the images a little bit, where the iPhone 7 Plus is very much pushing a little bit more on the right of the histogram, kind of exposing it a little higher. If we go back to looking at the left side of the image, the Pixel once again is losing some of the information in the blacks. The iPhone 7 Plus, there's plenty, the GS7 and the V20 still retain some of that dark information, where the Pixel is starting to lose it for some reason.
All right, so what does all this dynamic range information really mean when you're taking the shot and then using Instagram to apply filters?
So yeah, you don't want the camera to lose any information. You want the most information coming into those editors so that you can make those choices rather than the camera.
Right. Okay, so we've seen all the photos shot in the brighter studio lighting. If you had to pick your favorite, what would it be?
Clear and away, it's the Pixel. Even though it loses some of that information in the dynamic range, the color and the clarity are just far and above what I would want from the rest of the phone. So the Pixel is definitely the clear winner here.
Okay, that's what we learned from basic studio shots, but you have to keep in mind that we didn't shoot video and we didn't use the